How you want, whatever you want. I got special guests on today. Go ahead and introduce yourself, man.
Yes, sir. My name is Brock Vieira. I am the beat writer for the Los Angeles Rams. I cover the Rams, the Jaguars, and the Chiefs, also UCLA football for Sports Illustrated, and I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, man. So, Brock, this is how I like to do. I like to give my guests a 5-10 minute ether segment. Basically, go off about anything you want to, anything you not liking, any player you don't like, or any team you don't like, anything sports. What you want to go off about, man?
Well, so like I said, so I cover the Rams. I guess I'll just talk about the big topic right now, and that's Matt Stafford, right? Everyone is talking about trading Matt Stafford or where Matt Stafford might go. I think we just got to pump the brakes in that conversation. I think it's kind of gone a bit too far, honestly. This whole Matt Stafford, I'm not saying that he won't get moved. Of course, you never know what's going to happen. You don't know what's happening behind the scenes and what, we can only get so much out of the facility at a little bit at a time in terms of information. But there's nothing that we've heard that says Stafford's going anywhere. They have a working agreement going on about trying to finalize a new contract for this year. The cap numbers just came out. They're looking at about another 25 million. They expected more. So that's going to help, bridge the gap between the two players in terms of where the two, you know, organization player and of course team in terms of what that money's going to look like. Again, while our team's going to trade as great as Matt Stafford is, why is he going to trade first round picks for him? The only team that I could potentially see him going to is Pittsburgh because there is an argument that they are a quarterback away. They do not have a top 10 draft pick. They're picking, I think, 21, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, Tomlin is a known coach, a known winner of the regular season. Maybe Stafford is a guy that can get him over the hump in the postseason. Even then, I don't see that happening. He's an old guy. He's 37. He's got 4 kids, right? His wife and whole family out here. You really want to move them out to Pittsburgh, right? Sunny California to the bitter cold of Pennsylvania. Like it'll be a big move. I think we just gotta pump the brakes, and that's gonna be my theme going off of. Is just everyone needs to chill out when it comes to Stafford. If it happens, it happens, but it's very likely not happening.
What about Cooper Cup? You think he gonna ask for a trade?
That's thing about Cooper though is that it's not really his choice at this point. The Rams have kind of made the choice for him. It's like they said that, hey, your cap number is way too high. We don't see you producing like you did before. You haven't produced the past couple of years. You've been hurt ever since Triple Crown season in 2021. Every single year. It's time to move on. We got our guy. We got Puka Nacua. We got a top 5 wide receiver, and you don't. For what you produce, you do not command the $23-24 million cap space is going to cost them in 2025 and 2026. So I think it's traded. They did say that they would eat up a portion of his contract. The thing is, though, is that if we're talking about him being not the same product he was, those are the same conversations happening in front offices. Because of that, a lot of teams aren't really willing to trade that much for a guy that's still going to cost them 11, 12, 13 million dollars on the books, whatever that number works out to. So I think it's going to be tough. However, with this new cap situation, right, with the extended 25 million, plus the Rams have available about 31 million in free cap space, they have some flexibility. If they're already willing to eat up 9, maybe they'll be willing to eat up 14. Cut takes a contract cut, a pay cut, and so he stays in Los Angeles, and it makes a lot more sense as they proceed forward in free agency, of course, into the draft.
So I was gonna ask you about the Rams, but your favorite team is the Chargers. So let's go ahead and get into that.
Yes,
Let's start
sir.
off with the draft picks. What kind of what position do you think the Chargers need to go draft? Like, what position do y'all need
Ooh.
the most?
That's a tough one. I think that the answer to that is going to come down to what they do in free agency. And the reason is right now they have a pressing need at tight end, they have a pressing need at wide receiver, they have a pressing need at interior offensive line. But the features of Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa are going to determine if they have another pressing need at edge rusher as well. Should they cut Bosa, they're going to have about like nearly $100 million in cap space. So they may want to address some of those other positions, with that money. But of course, as you've seen, T. Higgins is staying in Cincinnati. Garrett Wilson appears to be staying in New York. So the wide receiver market is getting smaller in terms of top guys every day. Plus, as each guy goes down, other guys' value goes up way more. So you'll be paying a premium on a guy that might be a bit over the hill, like Devontae Adams, uh, Stephon Diggs, or something like that. With that being said, if they don't retain Mack or Bosa, the only legit pass rusher they got is Tuli Tuipulotu. So with that being said, I think they go edge rusher. especially since I have like 8, 9 guys graded as first round picks as edge rushers, and a whole bunch more in the second round as well that I grade very highly. So edge rusher is my guy.
Okay, so let's say y'all get edge rusher like Detroit did with Hutchinson. You feel like that's gonna be a difference maker for the defense?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'll make the argument there's no position greater than center or quarterback than edge rusher. And the reason why is because no matter what scheme you run, no matter what you do, it's the pass happy NFL. It's the pass happy NFL. Everyone's in shotgun is what they do. Unless we're gonna completely go back to 2000s bully ball again, then maybe it'll be different. But an edge rusher can just disrupt so many things. You think Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, all those guys in the AFC are going to be throwing accurate balls downfield if they're getting pressure on them all the time? No, there's no way. So that's why I think that if they go with that, this would be the catalyst to them maybe getting a little bit, becoming a bit more successful in the postseason.
So speaking of that, what was your thoughts on the Chargers this season? Like, what you think they
I
did
was
wrong, did good?
not a lot of things they did wrong. I would say I think at times they're a bit too conservative with their play calling, especially on the offensive side of the ball, especially on certain fourth down calls. I feel like they punted a bit more than I would have liked. That there's some situations I thought they should have went for a bit more. But that's what you get with a guy like Jim Harbaugh. The nice part is this was a team that was in the midst of a full rebuild because the year before they gave up majority of their cap to 4 dudes, right? So you have to kind of deal with all that. Keenan Allen is gone, Mike Williams is gone. You invested on defense, and for them to have the number one scoring defense in the NFL, paired with a pretty successful offensive output, considering the lack of weapons that they got, I think it was an overall success. The fact they made the playoffs after going 5 wins the previous year, I can't really ask for more. Obviously, it didn't work out in the postseason; it all fell apart against Houston. But hey, baby steps, right? Detroit had the same way. That take baby steps, and of course, it didn't work out for them this year. But they are a perennial contender right now, looking back at what they were 3, 4, 5 years ago, massive difference. So it's a process, and I'm happy with where we are so far.
I feel like with the Chargers, I feel like they're like a middle of like they're always gonna be in the playoffs no matter what, even if they squeeze in there. But I feel like with the team, it's just like the middle of the pack teams, like they're all like everybody know they can be great, but it's like they just mediocre. That's like I feel like with the Chargers, like they got the squad where you got like a couple years ago the excuse was they're young. Okay, cool. They was in rebuild mode. Philip Rivers, Antonio Gates era was over. So we going to the Justin Herbert era and all that. Okay, now it's like you don't have no more excuse. Now it's they can't get over the Kansas City Chiefs or you feel like that's the excuse with the fan base right now.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't use the word excuse the fan base. I think that if championships were given out on paper, the Chargers would win every year, right? We always hear that now, oh, they look so good coming into the season. Season ends, then like, oh, what the hell happened? So I think that, correcting the mistakes that lead a dominant roster to putting out a poor performance needs to be addressed. I think that's what Jim Harbaugh is doing so far. We had guys like Anthony Lynn, who was way too conservative to the point where it cost him his job. And even at that point, he was still punting on 4th and 1. Right. So you start to see Harbaugh kind of open it up a little bit as the years go on a little bit more. Brandon Staley was another guy, but he was the complete opposite. He was like, oh, let's go for it all the time, which is great in the beginning. But when they failed hard. And then when he tried to roll it back, he rolled it back way too far. And that's what, it didn't end up working out. So in terms of excuses, I don't care what excuse you say. If you lose, you lose. There's only one team that ends the season on a happy note, right? So I just think that if there's any time to cut out the excuses, it's yesterday, because that's not how football works. And considering that they have $100 million, or should have $100 million cap space, have some good opportunities in draft picks, to have a new GM in there, he's entering his second year, so he already laid his foundation. If you don't get it done this year in terms of having success, you don't have to necessarily win a championship because it is a couple-year process. But if you don't win playoff games, that's a massive failure and some massive questions to be asked them. Why did things go sideways? Because I personally, maybe it's just me as a fan, but I do not tolerate continued mediocrity. And it feels like that's what I get every single year from my Chargers. Not obviously this year was a lot better, but in years past is what it always felt like. It was great in September. December comes around and it's gone to hell.
All right, all right, man. So bringing in Jim Harbaugh, you know how he able to turn programs around with the 49ers, and then when he went to college, a lot of people think he want to go be great with Michigan, but you see, even though Michigan was already established, he was able to continue the winning team basically. Even though he can be my Ohio State, we gonna talk about that. So you feel like coming into the Chargers, you feel like he gonna do the same thing like he did in the past with on the 49ers?
I do. I do think that it's going to require patience for the fan base and the front office because you can only do so many things. I mean, like you were saying, right? 0-7 against Urban, right, during his time at Michigan, right? So it takes a while to get things going. And yeah, Michigan's dominant, but it's also not like they weren't a dumpster fire after Braylon Edwards left at 03. And those last years of one car, losing to Appalachian State, the Rich Rod years. After that was Brady Hoke. Like, those were pretty bad years in Michigan. And that's kind of how I feel about the Chargers, is that there were some pretty bad years at the end of the Bradley Staley tenure. Even though that was just 1 year, it felt like a long time. So it's going to take a process. I think he'll get it done. I just think that it also is going to take him making bolder choices as a coach. One of them is going to be his offensive coordinator. Greg Roman, I like the guy, but he is simply not it. He hasn't been it for a long time. Yeah, he helped Lamar Jackson win an MVP, but that was a long time ago. And we all saw what happened after that season, where he would not open up the playbook, where he would not open up the route concepts, where Lamar would be dotting up, the defense in practice with these different routes, and then those route combinations would not be employed in the game. That's what I'm seeing right now with Greg Roman with Justin Herbert. Now, Herbert needs to be much more assertive as a quarterback. I think that's one problem is that, yeah, he has all the physical tools, and yeah, he can turn it on at any time. But I needed to have a little bit of that FU mentality in there, where basically he's saying, this play call sucks. I'm calling my own thing. I'm changing up protection. I'm calling audibles. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Have that kind of Philip Rivers mindset, because I'm seeing some of these routes and some of these formations and some of these plays. What the hell are we doing? Why are we having four verticals with a quarterback under center? That makes no sense. He's getting tattooed by defenders by doing this. So I think that if Harbaugh is to win, Roman cannot be the play caller. I'm not saying you got to remove him from your staff, but he's great at concepts, but in-game play calling is his Achilles heel, and it will be the detriment of the Chargers if it continues more than next season.
I'm glad you brought Herbert. I won't say Herbert. I'm glad. How long you get Justin Herbert? Because I feel like, with me, I feel like a lot of fans or a lot of writers or media people, they like 50-50 with him. I remember when he first came in, they was trying to compare him to Phillip Rivers. I don't like when they do that, but they was trying to compare him to Phillip Rivers, and then he tried to be a mobile quarterback. That's the wave that's going on in the NFL. But as you can see, he can scramble, but he not Lamar. Like, if it's 35, he can get you 6, but he not getting you 30. That's the type of quarterback he is. When it comes to his accuracy, I feel like he kind of iffy. Some of that, I feel like he get bailed out by the receivers, but in my opinion, I feel like Justin Herbert, I get him like, especially with Harbaugh coming in, Harbaugh might see, you was the old coach quarterback, you not mine. Harbaugh got control this year. We be for real. He got to make everything go his way. So how long you get Justin Herbert?
Yeah, no, I think Herbert is quarterback of the future, honestly. And the reason why is because he had an opportunity to get rid of him for his guy, J.J. McCarthy, and he chose not to, right? He threw it up there to see if he could maybe generate a little trade buzz or something, maybe have them trade up or something. But I never thought Herbert was ever going to be in danger. Also, he just signed a massive extension that kicks in this year. So any team that picks up Herbert would have to pick up all that money as well, which would put a massive big cap on the Chargers. Lastly, you just hear about how Harbaugh talks about Herbert. That's his guy. I think that no matter who his guy was, he was always going to back his guy. That's just the kind of guy he is. I mean, how long did he ride out Cade McNamara until the wheels fell off, right? There was even a quarterback battle with him and McCarthy during the 2022 season, I believe, right? There was not supposed to be a battle. So I think Herbert is going to be there for a while. The problem is that, like you were mentioning, I don't think people understand what Justin Herbert is. Justin Herbert is a pocket passer that when the defense rushes 4 and 7 dropping coverage, he makes plays with his feet. Why is he running QB designed runs? I don't know. People think he's Josh Allen or something. He's not Josh Allen. Josh Allen is built like a tank. Herbert has a plethora of injury issues. Why are we getting him exposed to contact? Like that, I don't get it. And when it comes to your accuracy point, there is a clear correlation between him getting hurt and him just missing wide receivers. Like as much as I have given Kellen more flack, and I've also given him his flowers for his time at Philadelphia with Jalen Hurts and everything, you know, there's some times where Herbert had Keenan Allen wide open downfield and just sailed it, right? But there's many reasons for that. One, his ball comes out as a bullet, which means there's no error under it. So it's either on the money or just a complete miss. There's no wiggle room for error, which is a massive issue. When you're hurt, that wiggle room for error just becomes way smaller than it already is. And thus, you're going to have these missed throws. So you cannot design these route concepts. You cannot run these route concepts with them because that margin is so low. In the same breath, there are a lot of concepts that you can run, but they don't. If I'm the offensive coordinator of the Chargers, I like what Harbaugh is doing. A run-first approach. We're going to go back to bully ball. Let's bring in a tight end that puts his hat in the dirt, but is also good as a receiver. But nothing that's like extraordinary, but serviceable, right? And then let's get the play action rolling. When you run Herbert on play act, not just shotgun play action that everyone's figured out for the past 4 years, put him under center, have him do his 5-step drop back, 3-step drop back, play action. We can roll out a little bit, use that limited mobility, and then you give him the foundation to make plays up and down the field. Unless they do that, they're going to have the same results every single year.
How long do you give the Herbert and Harbaugh era? Like, how honestly long? Like, I know the Chargers have a history of keeping coaches and players there. Well, mainly players. I don't know about the coach part, but they have a history of keeping coaches and players together for long periods of time. So, how long you give this era? Like, nowadays NFL owners be like, well, you got 3 years to win. If don't, then we just go blow it all up. You know how they do now. So how long honestly do you give this era?
So I think it depends. My first guess is considering Harbaugh's tenure with the Niners and his tenure with the Wolverines, and even his tenure with Stanford. I say he's got between a 6 to 8 year window. It's just pretty long because, to your point, the Chargers, they don't really fire people. Tom Telesco was a general manager forever. I don't know any general manager that's allowed to hire 3 different coaches. He was, So I think that was going to help out. Also, I think that you got to look at the age of Dean Spanos. He's like 72, 73, right? Of course, his dad lived till he was 95. So if he lives longer, his dad's got a lot of time left. But he wants championship badly. And if you blow it up now, that's just going to take more time to get it fixed. And I think that if this is I'm not trying to sound morbid, but this is like the final hoorah for him to try and get that title. He's going to try and stick it out as long as possible. The only thing that could accelerate that timeline is, of course, if the Chargers win a championship, or if Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator, is still there for some reason after 2-3 years, and then Harbaugh's not feeling it anymore. There might be a succession plan in that scenario, but unless something like that happens, I think it's at least 6 to 8 years, unless it goes sideways, quickly.
What you think wrong with the Chargers defense?
Lack of depth, I think, is what caught up to them. Obviously, they had the number 1 scoring defense in the NFL last year, but then you saw their age start to get to them a little bit, and then you saw the lack of depth start to get to them, especially the cornerback position. Takeem Still and Cam Hart were phenomenal draft picks, and they played fantastic as rookies. But you were missing a guy like Asante Samuel Jr. Obviously, I think they were still dealing with the dead cap of J.C. Jackson, which was one of the worst signings in the history of the Chargers, which includes a long history of terrible signings. So that obviously didn't work out either. And then the main thing for the playoffs anyway was when they lost Elijah Molden, their safety, it completely fell apart. Molden had a phenomenal year. He was out there just plucking balls from the sky. He was in position to make plays all the time. And as much as I love my Hawaii guys, because I'm from the islands, it's clear that Molden was a far superior player to Alohi Gilman. And Molden created a better partnership with Derwin James. Molden's presence in the secondary allowed James to be able to play close to the line of scrimmage and be that fast, physical, hard-hitting force that he's always been. So I think that if they can get a full season of Elijah Molden, if they re-sign him at free agency, and then having Takeem Still, Cam Hart take their step up this year as second-year players, and then maybe add a little bit more depth into that cornerback room, I think that they'll be a lot better, especially in the back half of the season. But when you look at their schedule, and you look at the numbers that they put up and the numbers they surrendered, the defense wasn't a problem at all. It was strictly the offense.
I want to go back to something. At the beginning, I was talking about the Chargers giving over the Chiefs hump. Because, it's always the excuse in the playoffs. They can't get over the Chiefs. So now that it's starting to look like it's about to crumble, but not really yet. Now that the Chiefs are getting older and players' contracts are coming up and, the future of the team looking questionable, do you feel like the Chargers are finally going to be able to get over the Chiefs hump, or it's still going to be like, that's going to be a go-to excuse of why they're not winning or getting past them?
I think if there was a time to do it, it is this year because right now the Chiefs have about between 11 to 15 million dollars in cap space. If Travis Kelsey doesn't return, which is expected that he's not going to, that's going to add another 18 million, which is going to boost that up to approximately 33 million. If I just be hypothetical here, and then the problem is that with the increased cap space, at 25 extra $1 million, that 33 automatically becomes 58, and then Mahomes has the best contract in terms of financial flexibility in the NFL. When he signed a 10-year extension, they signed like I think another 4 or 5 year extension on top of that. That's 15 years of money you can move. You can move his money this year and put it in 2032, because who cares what's happening in 2032? And you're going to get even more cap space. The good news is that they have been pretty terrible at drafting on the offensive side of the football. Not terrible at drafting, in terms of building the offensive side of the football in the Super Bowl run. Rashee Rice is a great receiver. He's also coming back from a massive injury, so we don't know exactly how that's going to work out for him. Xavier Worthy is great at his speed is fantastic. However, he can't be a wide receiver one. He's just not built like that. So he needs something else to open up the lanes for him to be able to attack deep. Travis Kelsey's not going to be this. Who's going to fill that tight end position? Who's going to be that go get it wide receiver if Rice is not ready? Are they going to be able to re-sign Trey Smith, their offensive guard? Jawan Taylor is a liability at tackle. They don't have an answer at the other tackle position. They have to move Joe Tooney over there because Kingsley Salu Matia is not working out. But then that exposes their left guard. They're going to have to pay Creed Humphrey next year because this is going to be his fourth year, I believe, in the NFL. He's only a third-round pick. So that they're going to pay him a lot of money. So it all kind of depends on what the Chiefs do this offseason. They also have Nick Bolton and Justin Reed on the defensive side of the ball that are expected to be free agents. If they aren't able to retain them or adequately replace them, the hole within the Chiefs roster that Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes have been able to cover up in 2024 are going to become that much wider. And if the Chargers can't take advantage of it now, they're never going to,
Yeah, man. I just feel like I don't know if the Chargers. Even what they had LT era, and then you have the Phillip Rivers and Antonio Gates era. It just feel like I don't know. I feel like the team always be there. Even the year I think what they went 14-2 back in the 05-06. It's like the team always there. And then it's like when you get to the championship game, it's like the Chargers just whole identity be gone. Like so you feel like with this era with Jim Harbaugh, even though you already said already, you feel like this gonna be the era where he gonna win a Super Bowl?
I think so, or maybe more. I hope so. Right? I'm trying to put my biases aside to give a proper evaluation. The problem with the Chargers is that they haven't won a division title since 2009. So that's step number one. You can't expect them to go on this large wild card run, especially if they're based in Los Angeles, having to travel to Baltimore, to Buffalo, and try to win in back-to-back situations over there. The first thing you need to do is secure home field advantage, whether that's a number one seed or just as a division winner. If they can't do that, they have no shot. That's why it kind of comes back to the whole if they got to beat the Chiefs. And then the next thing that they got to worry about is what's the Denver Broncos doing? Because Denver Broncos are another team that's on the rise. They have a Super Bowl winning coach in Sean Payton. They have a rising star in Bo Nix. They have a roster that was depleted in 2024, and they still made the playoffs with them. Now that Russell Wilson's dead cap hit is off the books, and they got a lot more flexibility considering Nix is on a rookie contract, are you going to still be able to beat them in 2025 like how you did in 2024? Now that they're going to have a much better roster, so that's going to be the second biggest question, and then the third biggest question of the whole equation is what role is the Raiders going to play in this scenario? Because it's not the same old Raiders. They have Pete Carroll, which is a shocking hire for them, great hire but shocking. They have Chip Kelly, your former offensive coordinator at Ohio State, just won a national championship. Right, he's coming in to be the OC for Las Vegas. And then you have Tom Brady and John Spytek leading the charge. It seems like Mark Davis is taking a hands-off approach, which is probably for the best. Right? And then you're having guys that know how to get it done in the building, kind of coordinate things around behind the scenes. They might not be able to be a team that contends this year, but they sure might be a team that knocks somebody off. And knowing the Chargers, they've been a team that's been knocked off before. Is this going to happen again? That they're going to be knocked off in 2025? So just a lot of worries around next season.
How dangerous you think? This probably off topic. How dangerous you think that Raiders team gonna be in 5 years?
It depends, and if I had to guess, I think very. And the reason why is because they have competency in the front office for the first time in a long time. No offense to him, but from right now to an Al Davis, like I'll say 2003, from 2003 to right now, when Al Davis was kind of losing it at the end, he was just making random draft picks, and then kind of after his passing, even worse draft picks. You keep seeing first round misses over and over and over again. Like I would say within the last 20 first round picks, probably an average about 17 have been busts. If you can increase your percentage of hits from that standpoint alone, you're going to be a lot better as a team. Pete Carroll knows how to build a culture there. You have guys in that building that want to win, especially in the defensive line. Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins, those are two dominant players up front. If they can find a way to get some corners in there that are physical, pressing guys, a lot of speed, get some of that old Raider mentality back. If you can go and rebuild that offense, they have a nice piece on the offense line, but I'm talking about building a more succinct unit. And then most importantly, if you can reestablish that rushing attack. I know the quarterback situation is questionable, but I'm not saying Aiden O'Connell's the guy, but he's good enough to get you some wins if you're able to take care of some other spots on that offense. Losing Josh Jacobs is a massive loss. Alexander Madison is no joke, but he's also no Josh Jacobs. So if they can bring in a running back, maybe a Travion Henderson, maybe a Quinshon Jenkins because you're wearing your Ohio State stuff, or maybe a running back from somewhere else, and then you can get a bit more push on that offensive line. I think a lot of things are going to open up for them. And then, like you said, 5 years, that's 5 off seasons of free agency and drafting. I think they can be a very, very, very dangerous team.
Oh no, exactly. There's a lot of hype around that Raiders team, man. They act like they about to be the '90s, '80s Raiders from back in the day. Like they about to go get Bo Jackson, Marcus Allen, and all them over. I'm like, the problem.
So
no, go ahead. What you about to say?
No, I was gonna say I think that's the right way to approach it. I don't think the Raiders are built to be a 2025 type team. I think they're built to stay mentally in 1982, which is not a bad thing because you're bringing a physical mindset. You're bringing a I don't care mindset. All I care about is my team. You're bringing a mindset of excellence, of dominance, of being something greater than yourself. I think that's something that's been missing from the Raiders for a long time. The Raiders, like, look at the uniform. It's literally written into their code or something that they can never change the design of their uniforms. They're not meant to change. They're not meant to evolve. While the schemes can evolve and while some of the concepts can evolve, the attitude, the mindset, the characters, the ability to pluck talent from anywhere, any place, from Division II football, Division III football, from HBCUs, from Florida all the way to China, wherever there's talent. And that's the Raiders mindset. They haven't been performing that mindset. And you need to get back to that point because that's those type of players that come from places that aren't heralded, that aren't beloved, that aren't watched. There's a grit to those players that when that grit becomes a core part of the team culture or team foundation, then you have your star players playing with that same grit. That's when you get those championship results. I think that's what's really been missing. So if they can do that again, like go back to the tactics in 1982 or 1983, I think that you're going to see a product that Raiders fans are really going to enjoy to end the 2020s and, of course, into the 2030s.
The Raiders, they used to take this ain't the steroid era or the I like to say doping era. They used to take those from the middle of nowhere, put them on the field, and they just be stars. Like, yeah, they had your Marcus out there. They weren't that crazy. They knew they had to go get Marcus and Bo and all. They went, but when it comes to like the defense side, Raiders weren't drafting big time defensive players, so they probably was, but most of the dudes who was about you ain't know where they came from. They just came out of nowhere. I feel like they still stuck on the, like you just said, we could go get random people and just put them together. No, because see now the team went from being gritty with Al Davis, and like you said over the years, like the team became more corporate, and that's where they lost their identity. They were playing in the baseball stadium that was like 100 years old. Then they got the new stadium. Then the whole identity just became corporate. That's when now I feel like they're trying to get back to it. And being in Las Vegas, well, you know how they get down, everything cutthroat, rough, yeah. So I feel like they're gonna get it back, but I don't know. We got to see. Another team I'm gonna talk about is the Seattle Seahawks, because they're in the AFC West with y'all. What's the threat to them? Like, they a threat to the Chargers, or you feel like they're just there for now?
The Seahawks, well, I guess it's more of a Rams question because actually they switched over to the NFC West. Yeah, but they're AFC back in the day, so I get it, right? Don't I'm still trying to. At one time, Atlanta was in the West, so I get it. Um, no, but when it comes to the Seahawks, they're a team that I study a lot because of my work with the Rams, right? And they were the biggest threat to the Rams this year in the NFC West. They're a team that's on the rise, and you got to watch out for them. The biggest thing for them this year is what happened to DJ Metcalf. So not DJ, DK Metcalf. Do they trade him? And if they do trade him, what do they get back for him? Jackson Smith and Jigba is a star, which I know you obviously knew for a long time. We all knew for a long time for his days at Ohio State. But this year he turned it on against defenses. They have two really good running backs in the backfield, in Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. And though they're not going to give you those big splash plays as a 1-2 combo of power and speed, they can hurt their defensive front seven, which will make you forced to fit your box with defenders, which will allow more space for Smith and Jigba to operate. Plus, Mike McDonald, the head coach, is rebuilding his safety room after completely dismantling it last season. So, you're going to have a lot better players on the defense. The two biggest questions for me when it comes to the Seahawks: who do they bring in to be a dominant edge rusher to help unlock Byron Murphy? And then the second part is, what are they going to do to fix their interior offensive line? Because their interior offensive line was their Achilles heel. Geno Smith, whatever you want to say about him, was getting whacked up and down last season because their interior offensive lineman had as much protection ability as a wet paper towel. So when they can figure out those things in this offseason with John Schneider, I think they can be a very dangerous team going forward.
I'm retarded. I'm at the Broncos. I'm looking over. I'm like, I was thinking of the West Coast teams. Yeah,
and
man,
don't worry. Hey, all good. Like I said, they used to be NFC West back in the day, and honestly, like the way that NFL used to be, it was that's an odd division. Like the Niners and the Saints used to be in the same division. It was very odd. But just want to touch on the Broncos again real quick. They got a lot of guys on there that are underrated stars. Obviously, they had defensive player of the year, Patrick Surtain, but guys like Devon Vele, Riley Moss, some of those unsung heroes, they got some studs in that team that are getting talked about. They could be another dangerous team entering 2025. It's just going to depend. Does Bo Nix take that step up, or does he go into that sophomore slump? We'll just have to wait and see.
the thing with the problem with the Broncos. Now we on the right team. The Broncos in the AFC West. I feel like Sean McVay with the Russell Wilson situation, it was kind of suspect. A lot of people was looking at him like he on some other stuff. I get why he got rid of rest, because it's like I'm coming in and Sean McVay, we already know he well seasoned as a NFL head coach. Now this was Russ from 5-6 years ago. He probably would have kept him. Russ, as you can see now, getting older. Russ, he can't scramble no more like he used to. Like when he was in Seattle, a lot of them plays was him scrambling. The play would get broke down. He can't do that. That's why they got Justin Fields starting in Pittsburgh. So with the Bo Nix experiment, I don't feel like it's Bo Nix. I just don't see the media hype. Like even when he was at Auburn, he transferred to Oregon. I just don't like. Do you see him being a quarterback? I honestly, I give him like 3 years. Like I just don't. I feel like he on the Tim Tebow effect. Like I feel like he got Tim Tebow going on. In my opinion, with Bo Nix, because I know Sean McVay. Once it's a case of I'm gonna let Bo Nix cook for now because he young, and you know how management, you know how politics. He supposed to be like the next John Elway, I guess, whatever. So Sean McVay, I get Bo Nix 3 years for Sean McVay be like, I need me another quarterback. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah. No, I think it was a good point. I think you meant to say Sean Payton, but it's all good. No, all good, my boy. No, but real talk about Bo. I can't say anything negative about Bo Nix because I highly doubted him coming out of the draft, and he goes on and leads the Broncos to the playoffs. So before I put my foot in my mouth again, I'm just gonna stay off saying that he's gonna be bad or anything. The big question is that teams are gonna have a whole year of game film on him. So how does he evolve? How does he evolve his game, right? And when it comes to the Russell Wilson situation, I don't think even if it was 5 years ago, Sean Payton would have kept him. And the reason why is because whether Sean Payton wants to accept the truth or not, he's an egotistical person, and I'm only using the person because I'm a professional, right? But he is, and he likes to develop his own guys. He likes to succeed with guys that he developed with. That's what he did with Drew Brees. Yeah, Drew Brees was a 4 year or whatever veteran in the NFL at that point. But Marty Schottenheimer did develop him with the Chargers. Marty, in my opinion, actually ruined Drew Brees when he was with the Chargers. So he's a player that has massive health issues. People don't believe he can play anymore. Sean Payton molds him into being his all-time great. And that's his calling card. We saw the same thing start to happen with Taysom Hill. He had Jameis Winston, who has a legitimate NFL arm on the bench, and he's trying to make Taysom Hill work to the point where it looks so bad, he was forced to go to Winston. So we've seen it again. So that's why I think no matter what happened with Russell, especially the way he treated Russell, I mean, whatever you want to say about Russ, like if he's corny or if he's always self-motivating or whatever you want to say it comes to that, there is a simple truth about him. He comes in, he does his work, he works very hard in the facility, he works very hard on his body, he's a good person, he's a good family man, and when you're designing a quarterback in terms of traits and also those things that you can't put into measurables, it's a guy like Russell Wilson. And Sean Payton still treated him like trash because he wasn't his guy. So I think that situation is going to be messed up no matter what. That's the thing with Bo Nix now, is that even if Bo decides to mess up, is Sean going to stick with him because that's his guy and he doesn't want him to be a failure because that would reflect badly on him, on Sean Payton himself? Will his ego allow that? Will his ego force him to make some other questionable decisions? I like Sean Payton a lot, and I think that he is the right coach of the Denver Broncos. I also think that he gets way too overhyped in the media. What is the difference between Sean Payton, Mike Tomlin, and Mike McCarthy? They all have won Super Bowls. They all have won Super Bowl. They all have multiple postseason failures. They have all had successful regular seasons and early because they can't get the job done in the postseason. So as much as we like to praise Payton as an offensive guru, right? As much as we like to praise Tomlin as his defensive guru, and as much as people love to shit on Mike McCarthy for some reason, they all have the same resume. And with that, I'll make this question right to everybody. You replace Sean Payton with Mike McCarthy, are you still guaranteeing those same results in Denver that people expect from the Broncos moving forward with Sean Payton? If so, great. If not, hey, but I'll make this argument to you. If you want to say that Mike McCarthy is not the same caliber coach, let's not forget Mike McCarthy has won a playoff game with the Dallas Cowboys. That is something that does not happen often. He went to the postseason, 3 times with the Cowboys? Listen, he did a lot of good stuff with a diminished Dallas team that towards the end of his tenure had no rushing attack. So if he can do that, maybe the difference is not that great between the 3 coaches. And if you don't believe Mike McCarthy can get it done in place of Sean Payton, what does that give you the confidence to say Sean Payton is the guy to get the Broncos over the hump? Quite frankly, I don't know.
Okay, I know what the Mike Tomlin one, the defensive guru. You did have like Harrison and Palomalo. Like we ain't about going to that. Them all them Hall of Famers and Pro Bowlers he had with the Steelers. But when it comes to Sean
But
Payton, do you really feel like? I'm not saying he an offensive guru because I ain't never believed that either. But you feel like those Saints offenses was really like they probably didn't have the big time players, but you feel like if he didn't draw up the plays or if he didn't have Drew Brees, that team like the offense wasn't as good as it was in the Orange for all them years. Let's say before they got Kamara and what's his name? What's the wide receiver name?
Mike Thomas,
Yeah, him. Before
Michael Thomas.
before they got them to, you feel like lead up to them, like you believe the Saints offense still would have been good with another coach.
Not with another coach per se. To be fair to Sean Payton, he had a generational run when he won the Super Bowl with Drew Brees in kind of a couple of years. But then we learned that that generational run was also assisted by a bounty gate scandal with his defense coordinator Greg Williams. So they kind of plays into it too. I also know that Drew Brees' best statistical season when he was breaking records, if I'm not mistaken, coincided with them going like 7-9. It also helps that it's very easy to win in the NFC South during those times. Yes, the Panthers did have Ron Rivera and Cam Newton, but they were great for spurts because Ron played Cam hurt, which got Cam more hurt, which made him worse. And plus, they didn't build a roster around Cam. I mean, who was his top targets once Steve Smith left? It was Greg Olson and Ted Ginn Jr. That's like, what are we doing? Right? So when you have a guy like Cam, unfortunately, the reality of the NFL is, at least back in that time, when you have a guy that could be a straight up dual threat, they think that that could make up for roster deficiencies when that's not true. Cam just was really great at being Superman, and that's why they went 15-1 that one year, went to the Super Bowl. Atlanta during that time, like Matt Ryan was good. They went to one NFC championship with Tony Gonzalez, but the Mike Smith years they ended pretty badly. Dan Quinn years ended pretty badly, and there was a lot of times in there where you're like, what is going on in the ATL? I mean, Julio Jones has a whole highlight of him making plays like a safety because he's trying to break up interceptions thrown by Matt Ryan, you know? And then when it comes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, yeah, they're good now, but before Bruce Arians with Brett Cutter and with Lovie Smith, they were awful. So I think that Sean Payton benefited by the fact that he had, and for a period of time, 6 easy wins every single season. Sure, he probably only got 5 or 4 out of them, but hey, when you are able to have those easy wins, your body's not taking as much damage, your mind isn't taking as much stress, and you're able to kind of concentrate and get more wins against non-division opponents for the rest of the season.
Yeah, that you ain't gonna lie, that NFC South. The teams was horrible. Like Carolina only got good when they got Luke Kuechly, and then Cam finally, I guess, put some more muscle. And you know how they was drawing up the offense. Greg Olsen, I guess he had to become like a Dwight Clark or Tony Gonzalez at the time, like because like the wide receiver court was horrible. Like Steve Smith was he was getting injured, he was getting ejected. Not ejected. Oh, yeah, something like that.
No, he was also getting ejected. That's for sure. No, he was definitely getting ejected. That's not real history of it.
Steve Smith,
he bullied Malcolm Jenkins. That was bad. That was terrible. Oh, great stuff. I love Steve Smith. He was the best.
He was on that Draymond Green. He was getting kicked out of games like them 2 years. Like every other game, he was getting kicked out. Like how you getting kicked out?
Every Sunday was demon time for him. Like all the pent up aggression from Monday through Friday came out on Sunday.
It's like he was like the Draymond Green in the NFL before Antonio Brown started doing what he was doing. It was Steve Smith. Like every other game, he was just getting kicked out. I was like, how you getting kicked out of a game? Like. The ref would be number 89. He did something. He did. I'm like, what? Anyway,
what I love about Steve Smith though is that he was a professional about it. He'd put up like 5 catches, 100 yards, and like 2 scores, and then get kicked out. Like he made sure he took care of his business, and then he was whooping butt. So To me, honestly, we need more Steve Smith in the NFL. All right, too much drama with wide receivers. I thought you want an absolute demon on the field, an animal, but a guy that's also going to be team first, a guy that wants to win, a guy that hates losing more than he loves winning, a guy that puts it on for the name on the front and the back of his jersey. That's the kind of guy Steve Smith was. And honestly, I think we need more Steve Smiths in the NFL and also the world. I love Steve Smith. I'll make that very clear. To me, Steve Smith is a Hall of Famer. I'll debate anybody about it. He's a Triple Crown winner. He has the numbers. He has the film. He was whooping people. He was whooping top defenses in the playoffs. Just because he never won a ring because Adam Vinatieri made a field goal, it doesn't take away from the fact that this dude was 100% dominant all the time. But that I just had to go on my little reps.
Yeah, I was trying to cover that though, because I'm probably like, wait, what does he mean eject? They used to legit eject Steve Smith. They used to legit call him. That's how they used to call him back then. They used to legit talk about number 89 ejected because he did he off the gun, he off a arrested gun. I'm like, that's before everybody like Antonio Brown era. That's now you might see player get that because the passer, what they call roughing the pass or dirty hit, whatever. But back then, for a wide receiver to get like you was like, what?
Yeah. It was always be funny because that arm would always come down, but we don't have to focus on the hand. If it was open, we're good. You just slap him. But as soon as that fist closed, it was he's gone.
Yeah, man.
I love Steve Smith, man. Love him.
Speaking of the down south trade, I know you said you right for the Jaguars. What you feel? I'm gonna start with. I feel like Trevor Lawrence overrated. I just gotta say that. But what you feel about their season? What you think they need to do to get better?
I think Trevor Lawrence is a tough study, right? Because you could say he's overrated, and there is a lot of arguments that would support that. You could also say that he's been poorly coached outside of a couple seasons with Doug Peterson. When you come into the NFL and your head coach is Urban Meyer, I know Urban Meyer is beloved in Columbus for right reasons, but Urban's a college coach trying to coach in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
He had Lawrence throwing the ball like 52 times in his first ever football game in a loss, right? So he was ruined his rookie year just as a wrap. Then you get your second year, which is 2022, and they win the AFC South. They beat the Chargers in that spectacular comeback, and they were a few plays away from knocking off Kansas City in Arrowhead in the divisional round. And then the next year they started out hot in 2023, and then it just it just blew up. It was just bizarre, right? They just lost every game, and all they needed to win was like one, and they would have been in the playoffs, but they didn't. And because of that, Houston and CJ Stroud was able to clinch the division, and obviously they've been on the success they've been on. So now that you have a new offensive corner with Liam Cohen coming in, and then you have Brian Thomas Jr. enter his second year, and it also didn't help that Christian Kirk was hurt last year too. So you're probably going to cut Christian Kirk. They're going to bring in another playmaker that's is going to be on the field hopefully. And once they fix the issues in the interior offensive line, I think that you're going to see a much more refined product from Lawrence. I think that he's going to be a lot like Brock Purdy in a sense. A lot of dinking, dunking, a lot of high-low concepts, a lot of reading one player in coverage and hitting the guys open, and a bunch of scheduled plays for him early in the season. While Cohen starts to rebuild Lawrence's confidence, and then he kind of gets comfortable in that system. But then I think when you start reaching week 12 through week 13, I truly believe if they make the right moves in free agency, he's going to start to turn it on. And I'm not saying he's going to be a top 10 quarterback, but what I am saying is he's going to be a successful product enough to not only get the Jaguars back into the playoffs, they could potentially win the division. And once you're in the playoffs, hey, you never know what happens, right? This is the same Jaguars team I watched with Blake Bortles put up 45 points against the Steelers in the divisional round in 2018. So there's something in the water in Jacksonville that whenever they make the postseason, some special things start to happen.
Do you feel like Jacksonville will ever be, let's say, a championship or a Super Bowl contending team? Let's say, like, do you feel like we know that Trevor signed the contract? So let's say before his contract is up, Do you feel like they're going to be a contending team, or you feel like when Trevor's contract up, just going to trade him, or they're going to let him walk?
I think they will be a championship contending team, and here's why. One, even though his extension does come in, they do have a lot of financial flexibility on that team. Trayvon Walker's extension, if that does come, is going to damage that. But they do have a dominant interior defensive lineman in Eric Armstead and a dominant edge rusher in Josh Allen. If Tyson Campbell can stay on the field, he's a really good corner. Who they get in this draft is going to be critical. I would love it if they got Travis Hunter. That's the guy I want for the Jaguars. But if you get Will Johnson, that's perfect too. If you get Mason Graham, that's perfect too. It has to be one of those defensive guys that goes early, in my opinion, because it cannot be Will Campbell. I love Will Campbell, but I'm not trying to move him as a guard when there's a really good guard class with guys like, hey, Ohio State's Donovan Jackson is going to be a part of that. So I think if they get one of those defensive pieces and then go out and get a guy like Javon Holland, rebuilding Saxonville is going to be the key to unlocking Trevor Lawrence. With that being said, they benefit from two massive things. One, Florida has no state taxes, so they can sign players for a little bit less than other teams would because the players would actually come out with more because they're not giving so much to the state, right, in taxes. And the second thing is that competition wise, the AFC South is not difficult to win. Yes, Houston will be a massive problem, but there are a lot of divisions. Like you look at the NFC North, there was three championship contenders in there, and the Bears, right? And if the Bears can get it rolling, that's potentially four contenders. The Colts are not going to get it rolling anytime soon. They refuse to. They refuse to modernize. They refuse to make the critical and tough decisions. And why Chris Ballard is still in as still general manager is kind of beyond me. And then the other team is the Titans. You're going to be okay with the Titans for a long time. I mean, I don't have to go into it. Like they're a dumpster fire organization. So I think that a lot of teams, a lot of players are like, hey, we have a pretty easy route to the playoffs if I go down to Jacksonville. I can get paid if I go down to Jacksonville. I have a coaching staff down there that knows what they're talking about. I have a general manager down there whenever they hire the new one that isn't Trent Baalke, which is a crucial part of that. And you have an owner that's hands off in Shad Khan. Shad wants a winning team. Shad does not have to be the reason why they win. And I think that's the part about it that's so crucial. Is that he'll pay the money, he just doesn't need to get the credit because the only thing that he gets credited with is the income he makes from the team and also the fact that his name has the word Super Bowl champion next to it. That's all he really wants, from what I can tell. So I think yes, the Jaguars can be and will be a championship contender during Lawrence's tenure in Duval County.
Okay. I just feel like the Jaguars, they're going to be like another. No, I want to say Chargers. It's going to be like another in the middle type team. Like, they're going to be a team where Trevor Lawrence going to be a number overall draft pick, and they're going to, media hype. And, oh, well, now, let's say they do start drafting good, get some big time players. It's going to be, well, now, Trevor, you got the team to, take him to the Super Bowl. And then when he don't, it's going to be like, you're just gonna be, you're just gonna be another quarterback that can get them to the playoffs, but you can never overcome the hump.
So when it comes to Lawrence, I think he benefits from two things in terms of how he's viewed by the general public and the media. One, he isn't playing a big market, which helps out tremendously. Secondly, he can't even if everyone's careers continue on the path they're on, he won't even be the worst first round quarterback in the 2020s. It'll be Kyler Murray because at least Lawrence is a playoff win. Kyler Murray benefits from having that afternoon slot when everyone takes their nap in between the morning games and Sunday night football. So people don't really talk about how poorly Murray has been as a number one overall pick. So if you can't trash Murray, you can't trash Lawrence because Lawrence is better than Murray, and Murray doesn't get trashed at all. So I think he kind of benefits from that weird kind of thing of, I might not be best, but I'm definitely not the worst. And even if I was the worst, I don't play in that big of a market, so people don't care that much. It's one of those weird things in the NFL.
Let me ask you a question. So I was was just going through your social real quick. You said something about T. Higgins getting paid if the Bengals don't pay his contract. You feel like they're
Yes,
not
sir.
gonna pay him?
No, I think it will pay him. But when it comes to that tweet, what I was saying is that T. Higgins, but we always hear about all players are selfish, all players are holding out, all players are being team guys, right? Like, oh, the players. I hate that a lot. I'm a players guy. I love players.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, players are not getting paid as much as you may think. Like, yes, of course, they're making millions of dollars, but that's in a very short part of their lives. And if T. Higgins is what, how old is he? Like 27? I don't know how. For example, if T. Higgins is 27 right now, right? And he lives till he's 87, that's 60 years of life he's going to have to stretch his second round contract over. And he was a company man, you know, last year under the franchise tag. Yeah, he got paid like 20 something million guaranteed, but he was a company man. He didn't hold out, he didn't complain. Yeah, he didn't play that much because he missed some games, but when he was on the field, he produced, right? He made no noise. He wasn't the reason why the Bengals missed the playoffs. He did everything right. And yet now he still has to wait for his money. Forget that. All right. He was a second round pick. So that means like his money is due now. And if my money is due now, my money gets due now. All right.
Mm-hmm.
You give me my $100 million contract, especially for a guy like Higgins. I don't know his family situation, but I'm just going off my family situation. Because if I eat, I want my parents to eat. I want my brother to eat. I want my future family to be able to eat. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So 27 million over the next 60 years is not enough to get that done. Had T got massively hurt this year, do we really think the Bengals are going to do right by him and still give him his money anyway? Hell no. So if I'm T, I think to myself, damn, like I mean, maybe it worked out for me now because I'm going to get my 20 something million plus now my 100 something million. But for the next generation for of wide receivers, you gotta think to yourself, hey, my legs go, there goes my money. So I need to make sure I get my guarantees now because I'm guaranteed to be struggling later if I don't, as something happens. So that's kind of my main point is players hold out always. Get your, I mean, that probably kills any dreams I have of being a general manager because and someone's gonna look at this video and be like, oh hell no, we don't want this guy negotiating contracts. But I'm telling all my players, hey, you know what? This is your life. This is not a game. This is life.
Mm-hmm.
Get your money, and that's kind of my main point.
A lot of people don't know. Them players, y'all might see they got 100 million for 5 years. 20 million that they only really getting like 7, 8. Cause I don't think y'all understand they got to pay agents, corporate. Then they got the deals, the baby mamas, and then houses,
Yeah.
and then state. That you already know the government
Mhm.
want percentage of that. They not like
Yeah.
I think they did a documentary like 5, 10 years ago with Peyton Manning and all those like, yeah, I see I got the 120 mil, but I really only get like 40 of it. Like they not
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
taking all that money
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
y'all think.
You're absolutely right. And there's so many factors to go into it. Like you mentioned, family responsibilities take some portion. Your agent takes about 3 to 5%. He has to pay federal taxes on that money. Then he has to pay um, Ohio taxes. And I'm not sure if there's also like city taxes for Cincinnati. You might have to pay on that as well. Plus, whenever they go on the road to a place that has state taxes, they got to pay state taxes there as well. So like there's a whole thing that takes that just keeps taking money from you here, right? And if we're talking about a 60-year lifespan after from this point on, right? That's a lot of time to be able to stretch money. And while you're gonna live a comfortable life, regardless if you're making $100 million, you're gonna live a comfortable life if you're making 20 million. But it could be a lot better, and you're not gonna be able to do as much with your family and for others and for whatever you want to do if you're not making that kind of money. We're talking about generational wealth here. We're talking about having those term hard times not be associated with your family anymore. We're talking about the ability of you to invest that money into businesses. And the more money you have to invest, the more of a security blanket you got to say, hey, if this business goes belly up, we're still okay. We can do something else. The reason why guys are broke back in the day is because they weren't making the kind of money they're making now. So when they were taking those big business jumps and they failed, it was over. So now that they have more money, hey, We can make a little bigger gambles. We can try and increase the status of our families, our family name. And for a guy like Higgins, who has done everything right, for him to have to wait to get paid again, it's just to me, it's just not right. It's not worth it as a player.
Yeah, I don't think y'all be understanding. Like y'all be glorifying these dudes who think y'all making all this money. They not really making all this money like them actors. Why them actors came out and said, I live movie to movie. I live off royalty checks from TV shows and they not making money like y'all think. Y'all think they just really getting 100 mil out the gate. No. Not how this work. Even they're their own agent, they still got taxes on taxes and they gotta live day to day and then some of them they have this mindset, I have to keep this image. I have to keep this status per se to you know how that go with the celebrities and fans. So don't making money like y'all think. Like y'all need to get out y'all heads with this. Yeah, my dude just made 100 mil. No, he didn't. How many? Okay, he made 100. That's one person. Now it's 30 other people he got to pay plus the government. I don't think y'all understand
Right.
how this works.
Yeah, and just like you mentioned, right? Let's say someone in a 100 mil contract. Well, one, is it really 100 mil if only 80 is guaranteed? That's 20 million is a lot of money that's not guaranteed on that part. You know what I'm saying? Plus, if they cut you, that's going to impact your money as well. But and then kind of going back to the whole actors thing is like, yeah, the star gets paid the big bucks. The supporting cast, I mean, it's a 53-man roster. Not everyone's making 100 million. You know what I mean? And the thing I always want to say to players is that while you're negotiating your contract, the owner is getting paid, the general manager is getting paid, the cap compliance guy is getting paid. All their checks are still coming through. The only person not getting paid is you. So you're not really holding out because you need for whatever contract as a negotiation tactic. You're holding out because you're the only guy in this scenario who's not getting their check cash. You know what I mean?
I, mean, I feel you on that. It's
Get your
just
money.
yeah, man. I don't like to. I'm the type of person I don't like when they be posting. This player got 4 years, 60 million. Like, why is you telling that person business? Like, I think this what I think athletes need to do. I think y'all need to start putting them contracts, NDAs. Like, yeah, you can say I saw a 4 year extension, but when it comes to the price, don't do that. I don't need everybody to know I just signed this 30 mil, 100 mil. No, just be like he signed an extra 5 year extension. Bob, that's all they need to know. Because I know it's a business. You trying to market me, you trying to market the company, but don't be telling no. Like what when you see companies and businesses do that, even players sometimes. Because I don't know, what do you feel about that? Because I personally I don't like it. I think it's stupid. But what you think?
So I love it because it's great for my job, right? Because that gives me more content to write about. So I have a selfish interest in it. But then from another standpoint, I think some players like it because that's a status, right? It's like, hey, I have a $60 million contract. Hey, I got 80 million, right? And the thing that I like about the transparency portion is that it does not allow teams to screw you. Like let's say that everything was so hush hush, right? Well, if Justin Jefferson made this much and Jamar Chase made this much, I'm sure they're gonna know how much they made because they're friends from college, right? But how about a guy like CeeDee Lamb? Like, how is he supposed to know where his market is at if he doesn't know what the market is set at? So, as from that standpoint, is why I kind of like the transparency of it. But I do kind of get where you're coming from as well. The problem is that there's so much hidden language in the contracts that we don't get to find out about or doesn't get talked about enough that what a 60 million, like you were to your point, a $60 million contract isn't exactly 60 million. And then once you start deducting from everything else, the narrative can change about it quite quickly.
Yeah, I know you probably be waiting on them numbers.
Oh yeah. Oh no, I have to because that's a breaking story for me. Oh, extension. Start typing it out like, oh, you're gonna make this much. Well, because it generates views for me. But again, that's a biased perspective, and I'll gladly admit that. Like, yeah, that benefits me greatly that we know the numbers because that's more stuff for me to write about.
Yeah, I know you be waiting on them. No, they saw 200 mil. Well, yeah, let's go ahead and get to this last topic. So you already know Super Bowl. I'm gonna let you go first because I have said it's like the past 2 or 3 pods. What you feel about the Super Bowl? You'll come to the Chiefs and the Eagles, and do you think the Eagles can repeat?
I think the Eagles can definitely repeat. I mean, they're going to bring back majority of their roster. Some guys that have been question marks. Darius Slade might be headed towards retirement. Milton Williams, we don't know if he'll get extended, especially since he's looking for a massive deal, and rightfully so. But majority of the guys on the defense, they're going to be able to bring back. Um, Everyone talks about how are the Eagles able to pay everybody. They don't actually. There's a lot of guys. The entire defense is virtually on a rookie contract, except for guys like Brandon Graham and Josh Sweat. Of course, there's exceptions, but the Kobe Dean obviously didn't play, but was on the field for majority of the season. Zach Bond was on a super cheap contract. Kobe Dean's on his rookie deal. Jordan Davis is on his rookie deal. Jalen Carter's on his rookie deal. Nolan Smith is on his rookie deal. Quinyon Mitchell, Reed Blankenship, Cooper DeJean, like all those guys are on rookie deals. That's how they're able to finance, paying all those guys on offense. And even a lot of guys on the offensive line are going to be on rookie deals. Landon Dickerson just signed his extension last season, but Cam Jurgens is still on his rookie deal. And Mekhi Becton I think he might still be on his Jets deal, or he might be on like a real cheap contract. I'm not too sure, but that's how they've been able to make it happen. So yeah, Becton might not be back, but the rest of the offensive line is, and that's a huge bonus for them. If Isaac Seumalo goes back on free agency, if I believe his contract with the Steelers is up, that's a guy that took the Eagles to two Super Bowls before, so he might just go back to Philadelphia, which should up the offensive line again. Saquon's coming back, Jalen Hurts is coming back, AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, they're all coming back. I think Dotson is coming back as well. So he's just a great third option. Like you never know when he'll pop out, so you don't understand. So I think that for sure they can repeat. The question is going to be how well are they going to be able to handle the coordinator changes because more left for the Saints. But I think having Fangio back is going to be a massive benefit for their defense. And then Jalen Hurts is also a bit older now than he was the last time he had to make a massive coordinator change after a Super Bowl as well. So he'll be able to manage that a lot better. So, and then my thoughts on the Super Bowl was that, yeah, the Chiefs could have did something differently in order to maybe be a bit more successful. But when you look at how the teams were constructed, and that's what I wrote in my post-game report, was that Philadelphia won this game in the offseason, the way they built their roster, to be able to drop 7 into coverage and only rush 4 and still be an effective pass rushing unit. That's how you stop Patrick Mahomes. It's not really a secret. It's kind of basic football. The more guys are able to drop back into coverage while still being dominant from a pressure standpoint, no quarterback is going to win in that scenario. We've got no Lamar, no Josh Allen, not even Jalen Hurts. If you're able to drop 7 every play of the game that you're passing and only rush 4 and be effective, you're going to win. And then the second part to that is that when you look at how the Chiefs were able to game plan for the Eagles, right? Jalen Hurts has been incredibly disrespected in this playoffs. And I have had my questions about Jalen Hurts this year, but my questions was more of not his ability, but his ability to succeed within Kellen Moore's scheme. I thought that there was something off in that Hurts' strengths were not being utilized. I also said that the only way to stop Hurts and that offense, you have to stack the box as the Chiefs did against Saquon Barkley, so that he has to pass the ball. But you need to force Hurts to throw the ball outside into tough windows. I don't think his ball comes out fast enough or strong enough to be able to be successful doing that. Well, the Eagles agreed and said, okay, we're not going to be able to run the ball effectively. We'll just throw it on top of you and see who really wants it. The problem was that AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, John Dotson, they really wanted it and were dicing up the Kansas City defensive backs all day long. So schematically, there's nothing they could have done different. Eagles wanted it more. They had a better roster. They had a better strength capabilities. And it's not a criticism of Kansas City. It's a praise of everything the Eagles did, right? Jalen Hurts is a championship quarterback. And he had a championship roster built by championship individuals and coached by championship coaches. When you have that much greatness on one sideline, it's hard to defeat. And that's why the Eagles are Super Bowl champions.
What you feel about the refs? The refs controversy.
So ain't no rest controversy. First of all, in any criminal conspiracy, there's always got to be like multiple dumbasses at the bottom. And you know what's the best part about dumbasses? They can't keep their mouths shut. That's what brings out every conspiracy. So if there really was a thing with the refs going for the Chiefs or helping the Eagles out, it would have been uncovered because someone would have blabbed their mouth to someone, probably a female. You know how people like to talk when they're trying to be a player, right? And it would have come out by now. So I have no issues with the refs at all. It's hard hitting football. It's how football is supposed to be. And a missed call here and there in a game that has that much of a differential in points is not that big of a deal. And I'm all good with the refs.
So you are one of them people who were saying they were gonna be helping the Chiefs out or calling out the refs. Like you didn't believe in that.
No, no, because at the end of the day, the Chiefs were put on the ropes multiple times in the 2024 season, and they still won, and that had nothing to do with the refs. So if they can win all these tight games without the assistance of the refs, in games in which you perceive there is an assistance from the refs and they still win, well, then wouldn't that mean that in the games where they don't have those calls going their way, they would lose, right? No, they kept winning. They won what 14 games or 15 games last season. They only lost one game outside the Super Bowl with Patrick Mahomes as the starting quarterback. So I just think that people like to find excuses when they can't find solutions to problems like the Chiefs. That's just my take anyway.
Yeah, I'm 50-50 on it because I'm not too big on the refs helping them, but I feel like it do be, especially since the what's his name, Tim Donahue situation with the NBA. I feel like ever
Yeah,
since then, when it comes to the refs, everybody be looking real close, and I think that's what the problem was leading up. Because I feel like a lot of people feel like them close games that the Chiefs was having throughout the season, it was some suspect calls towards the end, so I can get why the fans was on the ref ass about that. And the Eagles, then nobody expect Jalen Hurts to win, and then nobody expect Saquon to have his breakout year like he did. Like, to be honest with you, I think Saquon should have been MVP, but I know for media reasons they make Jalen he the quarterback. Okay, cool. But when it comes to the Super Bowl, I thought it was boring. I'm not gonna lie. And no, I was one of the people who thought it was boring because I was waiting on the refs to cheat. You know how they was like, oh, the refs ain't calling no fouls. I mean, no flags. No, I was just watching because I just got bored. Like, I feel like that's what common sports. I feel like even with the NBA, people just. I feel like a lot of fans are either getting old or it's other things in the world to do now around sports time. Not like it was back in the day. It was just straight sports. Now I feel like more people got other things to do. So, or maybe I'm just getting older, so I'm not really in tune to the games like I used to be. But I feel like it was boring. And the highlight of it was everybody was just talking about Drake and Kendrick. The highlight was just about you. That you hear more about the beef that they got than the actual gameplay. Like that is never like even when Michael Jackson performed back then, it was still about the game, not well, Drake and Kendrick. That's how look. It's like is this was it a concert or a football game?
yeah, no, I mean, yeah, you make a great point. I think the thing is when Michael Jackson was performing, the people watching the Super Bowl was football fans, right? So it was just a football people watching Michael Jackson's performance. Nowadays, the Super Bowl is not a game; it's a national event. It's a national event that brings in people that typically don't watch football. So of course, in that aspect, the arts or music is going to transcend it because that's much more popular in general. I think that's why. But I enjoyed the game. I thought it was just a brilliant display of dominance by the Eagles, and
Mm-hmm.
it was nice to see. I do cover the Chiefs, but I have to try to be as unbiased as possible. It was nice to see Superman get brought down to earth once again because for a guy, I mean, like I said, I'm trying to say I've been watching this dude be dominant since 2017, 2018 is when he took over the starting job, and he's been running it ever since. When you have that prolonged of greatness, it's nice to remember that they're still human.
I feel like the Super Bowl, it was a case of I don't know. I hope the next year's Super Bowl is better. What they're gonna be playing that next year.
I'm not sure. I don't have that information in front of me.
I mean, whatever it's I just hope it's more about the game than everything else. That nothing to do with the actual game, and I hope it's more competitive than we seen because I don't know. It's like the Chiefs after the first quarter, they just gave up. Even though I know they still got
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes, who he was trying to light a fire under them. I feel like most of the team just that. That's what happens when them teams go 15-1, 14-2, 16-0. They always get in their comfortable zone. Like, oh, we've been killing the off season. I mean, we've been killing the regular season. We blowing these teams out in the postseason. Now we in the Super Bowl. Oh, we know we about to win this. No, you still have to win the game. Like,
Yeah.
like you feel like you see that with most teams who got like 14-2, 15-1, whatever. It's like they get to the Super Bowl, they just get real comfortable.
Yeah, no, I think it's because they haven't tasted losing in a while, so they don't know how to overcome adversity at that point. So that's kind of what happens with a team that um, loses like that. But my last thing I gotta say before I get on out of here is that I started kind of enjoy watching the championship games a lot more because it's strictly football. There's not halftime performances like that. It's just straight football, straight aggressiveness, straight desire, and that's what I really appreciate. Plus, I like the fact that they play in the home stadiums. I think that just adds another element to it.
All right, man. Go ahead and tell them they can find you at.
Yes, sir. You can find me on Twitter at MNS Today. Follow me. I'll follow you guys back. Uh, Find me on Sports Illustrated, Rams on SI, UCLA on SI, Jaguars on SI, and Chiefs on SI. And of course, I'm always doing videos and podcasts, and check me out on there. And I just want to say thank you, TJ, for having me on. It's been a lot of fun, and I enjoy talking ball with you, man.
Yeah, y'all gonna have Brock on post on draft. I want to hear about these Charger picks because I know he gonna have some roasting going on. But yeah, man, it's been TJ Clean Podcast episode 31. I'm on everything except Facebook, so y'all go ahead and follow me. Make sure y'all subscribe, retweet, like, do what y'all gonna do. It's been TJ Clean Podcast episode 31. We say we want hype on whatever we want. Thank y'all for watching.